Good evening. Today is Monday, March 24, and the meeting of the Public Safety Commission has been called to order. We begin to acknowledge that the land on which we gather, and is currently known as the City of West Hollywood, is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and the Gabrielino Kits peoples. Next item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If we all please stand and follow me in the pledge. Commission Secretary, may I have a roll call, please?
Good evening, Chair. Commissioner Blau?
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman?
Here.
Commissioner Nickel?
Here.
Commissioner Post?
Here.
Vice Chair Harrison?
Here.
Chair Aramian?
Here.
And not with us tonight is Commissioner Freiberg. We have a quorum.
Item 4 on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda for March 24, 2025? No? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. May I please get a roll call, Commission Secretary?
Commissioner Blau?
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman?
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel?
Aye.
Commissioner Post?
Aye.
Vice Chair Harrison?
Aye.
Chair Aramian?
Aye.
The agenda is approved.
Thank you. Item 5 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes for February 10, 2025? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
May I please get a roll call, Commission Secretary?
Commissioner Blau?
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman?
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel?
Aye.
Commissioner Post?
Aye.
Vice Chair Harrison?
Aye.
Chair Aramian?
Aye.
The minutes are approved.
Thank you. Item 6 on our agenda this evening is public comments. Commission Secretary, do we have any speakers at this time?
Good evening, Chair. Yes, we do. Our first speaker is Wendy Goldman.
Wendy Goldman, City of West Hollywood resident, and block captain of the Cynthia Sunset Neighborhood Watch near Sunset Strip. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners, City staff, and distinguished community members. Welcome to our new commissioners, and good luck to them serving in this important body. I have a few issues to share with you. First, I want to pass along a compliment to our Director of Community Safety, Danny Rivas, and his team. During my conversation with a gentleman who works in security at 9200 Sunset, he related how he used to shoo away unhoused individuals camping out in the bushes around the building, but they're no longer there. He gave credit to city actions taken to prevent them from returning. Also, he said that there's far less trash after the weekends, due in part to the work of sidewalk cleaning crews and visible parking enforcement on Corey Avenue. This has deterred further crime at that location. Second, last month, I spoke to you, commissioners, about our unsafe 5-story parking lot. There is insufficient signage for the entrance on San Vicente for motorists. There are not enough safety signs inside the parking structure as well. Due to large vehicles that not only back into spaces meant for a compact car, protruding into the driveway, they present a dangerous obstacle for drivers who are passing them. I would recommend that there be a head-in only sign to improve the flow of traffic during city meetings and gridlock, and station block-by-block security ambassadors on each level to encourage respectful parking. Finally, the Sunset Strip has seen the closures of 2 restaurants, Hudson House after barely 5 years, and Le Petit Four, a 44-year-old business, adding to the economic decline since the pandemic, strikes, and wildfires. Boarded up houses and storefronts like the old Hustler building and restaurants like Charcoal that only lasted 9 months have become eyesores, attracting the wrong kind of attention. It's the broken windows theory. When criminals see that an area lacks protection, it will be easier to attract more crime. A Harvard study of this theory showed that people feel afraid when there is no visible sign of caring. I recommend that you read this research report and consider adding sheriff's deputies on foot patrols on Sunset Strip. Our remaining businesses, including restaurants between San Vicente and Doheny, are struggling. Parkways and trees need maintenance. We need to spruce up the Sunset Strip in preparation for Pride Month, the Olympics, and new construction. We need to invest in this historic area immediately to prevent luxury hotels and billboards from taking over what was a global entertainment mecca for over 80 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Our next speaker is Agnew Wilson.
Hello, gentlemen. I was here last month, and I just, about the traffic situation that I reported last month, I don't know if the yellow tape that's been put up at the intersections, for instance, at Santa Monica and Robertson, here at San Vicente, La Cienega, that they put the yellow tape around the lights. I don't know if that was meant to slow people down, but if it was, it doesn't work. So I did some research. I've spoken to 3 officials in Beverly Hills City Hall and Beverly Hills Police Department, and you know, I need more than 3 minutes, but here's the bottom line. In my opinion, this city has become unofficially a sanctuary city for the homeless. Just in the first week since I last saw you guys here, there was an entire week that went by where there was somebody camped out on the pier in Santa Monica blocking the sidewalk for a full week. There's been somebody camped out at Santa Monica and La Jolla for a full week this week. My close acquaintance was just attacked 2 weeks ago in her wheelchair at Santa Monica and Robertson in front of the Starbucks in broad daylight. She's 75 years old in a wheelchair, pushed down by this regular homeless guy, pushed down out of her wheelchair and then into the street. Today, I witnessed out of my window some guy blocking the sidewalk, screaming at the top of his lungs. I watched the security ambassadors engage with him for 5 minutes and then walk away. That brings me to my point. I found out that Beverly Hills does something different than what West Hollywood does on the streets and on the ground with situations like this. They do something different. And at the end of the day, I think I know why, but they do something different. They don't allow this to continue. I found out from the lieutenant there that what they do is they offer the person help. If the person refuses or doesn't want help, they then let them know, you cannot stay here, you can't loiter here, you can't sleep here, you can't smoke here, you can't scream here, you can't do whatever you're doing here. You have to go. If they refuse to go, then they engage the cops. Also, I really believe that there's far more people on the ground in Beverly Hills between the rangers and the security ambassadors and the police. It's so out of control here. It's so dangerous to cross the streets here, and it's so unsightly. The only way you're going to see this if you walk the streets. You're not going to see it when you're driving. You have to get out and walk the streets. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mickey Friedman.
Good evening, Mikey Friedman, West Hollywood. I haven't been around for a while because I haven't been feeling well. And I walk with a cane now, but I can't walk with a cane when I walk Stormy because I can't hold them both since I'm a little short-handed. I came also to talk about the decline of safety in West Hollywood. I actually came to talk to the two new commissioners, and sadly they're not here, because one is very tunneled visioned about safety for bicycle riders, and I wanted to remind her that when you're a public safety commissioner, you have to be a champion for safety for everybody, not just for bicycle riders. She pulled me aside at a mobility fair one day when I was talking to the Lime people about their responsibility when people dump scooters or ride them on the sidewalk. And I wanted to address that, but unfortunately, neither one of them are here. I also wanted to tell you that a delivery robot was coming down my hill. I live on a very steep hill. I live on Clark Street above Sunset. And Stormy is a 100-pound dog, and she's very gentle, as you all know. But she's petrified of scooters, delivery robots, and bicycles. And one of those robots came down the hill, and she freaked out so badly that if there hadn't been a car that I could slam my body into, I would have fallen, and I can't get up. I've fallen twice in my house now, and the paramedics had to come. So what I came to tell you is that even though I'm not on the DAB anymore, I go to their meetings when I can, and on this Wednesday night, they're going to be having a presentation on delivery robots and other contrivances that go on the sidewalk. And I want to talk, and I know a lot of other people are going to want to talk about how dangerous they are to older adults and people with disabilities. I can't go out anymore on Sunset or on Santa Monica because it's just too dangerous with all the obstacles. Also, it isn't 2 restaurants that have closed, it's 4 now. It's Rock and Riley's, Warrior, Hudson House, and Le Petit Four, which is the most wonderful restaurant. And it's for 3 reasons. One, the minimum wage is too high for tipped employees. 2, commercial landlords are charging way too much rent. And 3, the homeless are encountering people and they're scaring them. So anyway, my time is up. I'm grateful that you let me talk, and Stormy and I both want you to be okay. Thank you. Come on, let's go, baby.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Jim Sofal.
Hello, committee. I've never spoken at a meeting before, so I'm kind of going off script, but after hearing Wendy and some of the others speak, I'm going to have a slightly similar tone, but a little bit different in a personal way. I've lived in Los Angeles 40 years this month, 25 of them as a homeowner in West Hollywood. I've seen West Hollywood go through its renaissance. Remember the day when we redid the boulevard and all these beautiful stores came, and we had lots of retail and restaurants, and it was really a heyday over the years. I've also watched it decline, and always thought West Hollywood would be where I would retire, owning a lovely home on Harper right now. But it started to make me think because of what everyone has already talked about. So I'm really would like to have a solution. I wish I could recommend what that would be, because I know it's very complicated. We have an extreme problem with the homeless. I walk a lot. I love to get my exercise. I love to walk to stores that are still open or restaurants that might still be open. But on the way, there's at least 10 or 15 persons or people asking for handouts or having some type of an episode or something. So it doesn't feel safe. And I really never question safety. We've had break-ins in our building, in our garage on a regular basis. We've had our mail stolen on a regular basis. Number of things. But the other day, I was walking from the San Vicente Post Office back to my home on Harper, and I decided not to take Santa Monica Boulevard because of the homeless on the boulevard. I thought I'll take the residential area. About 5 minutes into my walk on Cynthia in front of Hermitage, almost to Palm, I was on my phone talking to a friend, and all of a sudden a car pulled up, opened up the doors at gunpoint, and mugged me at 3 in the afternoon in West Hollywood. Obviously, I was traumatized. I I started screaming, please help, send police, whatever. I probably could have been shot by yelling, but that was my instinct. And I have now been watching over my shoulder. I don't even really walk anywhere other than a main street now, and it's just really changed my perspective even farther in terms of my doubts about where West Hollywood is going. So I really would like to plead with the city to really take a look to see what's going on here and see what we can do about some of these issues. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any speakers on Zoom?
We have no speakers on Zoom.
Great, thank you. Unfinished business. There is no unfinished business on the agenda this evening. Moving on to our new business, item 8A on our agenda is a report from the Los Angeles County Fire Department, who will provide a report on February's activity.
Well, good evening. It's been a while since I've been here. Been a little busy over our January and February, but now we're into March, so things are not loosening up, just I'm able to manage the time a little bit better. Your fire family is doing good. Proud to be of service to the city of West Hollywood, and we're motivated to come to work every day, and we're training hard. So as you requested, I have a comparison for 2024 of February and also 2025. Before I get into the data, I do see an uptake, which we'll talk about it, which is the rubbish fires. That you know that I communicate that message, I think, every time that I'm here. So within 2024 on total fires, we had 10 in 2024 and 26 in 2025 for February. EMS calls were 384 versus 427 for 2025. We had one hazmat call last year and 0 this month, for February 25. We had 8 hazardous condition calls for February as compared to 9 in 2024. 12 service calls and good intent calls were ranging between 155 for last year and 143. And I always talk to the good intent calls, and that's because I like that people are paying attention. They're calling 911. They let us come and evaluate what that emergency is or is not, and then we can bring the appropriate response to those good intent calls because what is relayed can be completely different compared to when we get there. So I like the good intent calls from the public. Looking at our fires, last year in 2024, we had a total of 4 rubbish fires. And this February we had 21. We had same with cooking fires, but as I've talked time and time again, those dumpster fires, the transition into structure fires, and that's one that we did have at the 9,000 block of Melrose, which was a dumpster fire that did extend into the structure. Your firefighters took quick action, minimal loss. Could have been a lot worse, but we have a very robust response. We have a great response with our sheriffs for traffic control, which is highly important in West Hollywood, so that collaborative effort, that unified approach for that public safety between our 2 agencies is very strong. So we work really well together when we have that type of fire emergency for traffic control, which once again is a huge component for us to manage that fire equipment and work safely on the fire ground. And with that, is there any questions before I go on any of the calls or any of the call volume before I move on to some other business?
Yeah, I have a question.
No? Okay. So,
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Just regarding the dumpster fires, is it an incorrect assumption to say that it's largely created by the unhoused population?
No, it's you don't know unless somebody is caught in the act. It can be, we get a lot of dumpster fires that is is not intentional, because if somebody puts something in a dumpster, somebody puts something else in a dumpster, they mix, they don't agree, and you can have some combustion. That's not infrequent to happen when people throw out their trash. And a lot of folks don't know how they may be managing theirs, and they don't know how somebody else is managing their trash. And sometimes when they throw products away, it does support heat.
So that 5X, whatever, it's just possibly a fluke.
Yeah, could
Okay.
be. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so, but there is an uptake in dumpster fires, but the who, but I can tell you the how, and that how is because there was something that distributed a heat source, whether it's intentional, non-intentional, what have you, but it's a significant factor in West Hollywood, and we all have to be aware of that.
Captain Smith, one question. At our last meeting, I had asked if having the dumpsters locked from Athens Services, because I know most of the dumpsters in West Hollywood do have a lock on them. And with these dumpster fires that are starting, do you know if the dumpsters were left unlocked or were they in locked positions?
I do not know that, and I can not in the fire report. It's most likely they're not going to put the locked dumpster had to force entry into the dumpster. We'll do that for houses and such, but that'd be a tough one. And we've talked about with the trash service being locked and unlocked and how that's managed, and that's got to be through whoever the occupant is and or the commercial building or any of the residentials to manage that with the trash service on how that is, and that can be quite challenging sometimes. So I know that was a long answer, but I can't say that they're locked or unlocked.
Thank you.
Good, okay. I'll move on to a few other things. We're good with that. So as we go into April 1st, we'll have some battalion chief rotations and transfers. So Battalion Chief Sarah Rathbun, her 3-year is coming to an end. She's going to be transferred to Battalion 4, which is the Altadena, Kinaloa area, La Cañada, Flint Ridge. And also Battalion Chief Chad Sourbeer will be rotated out. He's going to go down to the Carson, South Bay area. And we're getting 2 replacements that are both very good friends of mine, been on the job 20 to 25 years apiece. And that's Guadalupe Munoz, which will be taking Battalion Chief Sarah Rathburn's position. And for Chad Sourbeer, we will have Joe Spindler. So all good friends of mine, very well versed in operations and what the city needs, and sad to see Sarah leave and also Chad. But as you know, as our organizations, we need to expose our leadership to other areas, since it's a very complex organization that has a lot of moving parts and all risks, so we have to get them some exposure. But if we had the choice at a chief officer level, we know we'd have a lot of battalion chiefs that would stay here for a long time because they like it. But it doesn't work that way in the chief officer ranks. If you're a captain or below, that's why we have a lot of our firefighters, engineers, paramedics, and captains that stay in West Hollywood for 10 to 15 to 20 years, that they like it here. So, and that's all I have. Any questions? Follow up?
Vice Chair?
Just one quick follow-up to Commissioner Freiberg asked a question, I think, during our last meeting about fire hydrants. Mm-hmm. And I just had a follow-up. I think there was some coverage of it that sort of piqued my interest in this as well, that a lot of the reported fire hydrants, once they're reported to the agencies, I think we've got 2 different providers for water in West Hollywood, there really wasn't follow-up or correction to the issues. And I'm just curious what our method is, or do you have one in place that follows up once those fire hydrants are reported if you detect an issue? So if you're following up with the water
So
authorities.
meaning if there's a fire hydrant that's out of service, damaged, or inoperable? Is that what the question is?
Correct, and I know those are reported, but what
They
happens
are,
after
and then
that?
we have a communication with whoever provides the water service. We make a phone call and have them come and fix the hydrant, and if it can't be fixed because they have to wait on something, not many parts in a fire hydrant, but let's just say they had to wait on parts or something that disrupts service, what it happens that is they put a burlap sack over it that lets us know that it's out of service. But in our residential areas and commercial areas, it's 300 feet separation for fire hydrants, and residential areas it's 600 feet maximum, which you have here. So you'll never go more than 1,200 feet if you had to go from one to the other. So fire hydrants are 600 feet apart, and we have plenty of hose.
Appreciate it.
You bet. And then also, just to close, we're looking forward to working with our sheriffs because we're going to be transitioning into 2025 Pride. So we'll be starting the planning cycle for that.
Commissioner Nickel.
Thank you, Chair. Assistant Fire Chief Smith, it's good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Not had a chance since the fires. Just again, thank you for all that you and all of the men and women who protect us, all that you did. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate it.
my basic question is, coming out of that experience, is there anything that you need that we can help get you?
No. West Hollywood treats us very well, and we are good. We're now these fires are over. Now we're transitioning into our spring training cycles with stuff. It's never ending, truthfully, with us. But no, to answer your question, we are good. Thank you for the support, though, in West Hollywood, and I know throughout the whole organization. Thank you.
Good. That's what we should hear. Thank you. And Battalion Chiefs Sourbeer and Rathbun, they're both really, really amazing. Hate they're moving on, but looking forward to meeting the new ones. So,
Yep, and I'll introduce you to the new folks coming in. It'll be good.
great.
Any other commissioners have comments? Commission Secretary, do we have any public speakers?
Yes, we have one public speaker, Victor Omosazenko.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Victor Omolchenko. I'm a longtime West Hollywood resident, and regarding our Los Angeles County Fire Department, I want to thank them for the service that they provide to our small city, but as well as to the Los Angeles County Fire Department for all the work that they did fighting the fires that devastated 9,000 homes and took the lives of people in the county section called Altadena. I'm learning about all the different municipalities because I know the county provides us with fighting service here, as well as the job that you did in Altadena is to be commended. What I'd like to say is that I bicycled here, and I bicycled on the bike lanes that the city has provided us over the years. And I'm an experienced bicyclist, so I appreciate the safety elements of the bicycling infrastructure that is provided to our city. The one thing I'd like to say about the fires that happened, it might be a little bit of PTSD, I think maybe you heard last month from people, but the night of the fire here on Wednesday, I think it was January 8th, when there was a fire up in Runyon Canyon along the by the hiking path that I hike on. I bicycle up there and I hike there. I happened to be taking a nap and I turned the phone on at 6 p.m. and a friend said to me, "Aren't you gone already? I live on Laurel, just below Fountain, between Fountain and Santa Monica on Laurel." And I said, "Yeah, what's going on?" "There's a fire up in Runyon Canyon." Now that is city property, I believe, and that was put out after a while by the city fire department, which also deserves congratulations. But I'm kind of risk averse, so I just wanted you to know that when I saw all the traffic and all the cars, and I heard on television that if that fire had not been contained in 15 minutes, it would have been down to Hollywood Boulevard, and in the other 15 minutes, down to Sunset Boulevard. So I put my bike helmet on and got the hell out of Dodge, going to Cedars-Sinai, where I spent the next 3 hours in the auto court. I had my phone with me, there was chargers there, but I just decided to get out. And what I want to say is, I hope that in future calamities like that, let's hope they don't happen, that the messaging system be kind of better coordinated. I know we're talking about a Nixel system and that, but I remember getting some false alarms, and I just can say that Laurel and other streets going south were very, very crowded, and I'm happy that I was able to use my alternative mode of transportation and get out of harm's way. And the other thing is the Ogden Owls on the east side had a very good meeting, and the fire department was there, and it was good to meet people from both Station 7 and Station 8. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ed Holman.
Good evening, Commissioners. I just had a quick question. I was watching the news earlier this afternoon, and they were talking about the fire hazard severity zones in LA, and a new map was updated. And before, West Hollywood wasn't a part of it, but now parts of it are, and including my street where I live now. And I'm wondering if the fire gentleman over there could speak to that, about that. That's something that we need to be alerted about now that we're included in this, and I live in it now, this fire hazard severity zone. That was all I had. Thank you.
Assistant Chief, would you like to touch up on that topic?
I can.
Would you please?
Yes, so the update with the fire danger severity zones is done by CAL FIRE. And with that relative risk assessment for what is determined a high, very high fire danger zone, the map does change. So what may come of that is that people that are within that zone may be included in having to do defensible space practices, which is basically landscaping and vegetation management on their property. So what happens is you have your jurisdictional fire station on, and I'll focus on just bring some comparison to, like in the Santa Monica Mountains, we go out and do defensible space inspections where we go through the fire code on homes and what their landscaping's like and what their vegetation management needs to look like. And so those practices could, if you come on the declaration list of having to have an inspection, I'm not saying that it's happened, but if you have to have an inspection, we go out there and we inspect the home, that we can write things in violation of the fire code, meaning if you have a really nice tree that is now aged and it has a lot of dead limbs on it, that they need to be limbed up, and there's some codes and ordinances associated with a fire code that may come into play if those are deemed that you have to have an inspection. However, any of the residents that have can be subject to any type of inspection for a fire code violation anytime. It doesn't matter if you're a residential or a commercial occupancy or anything. We can do that if we see stuff that's a fire hazard. But in relation to your question, there may be, and I'm not saying that it is because I haven't seen the list of properties, if it comes out that you have to have a inspection. And if it is, we just come out and do an inspection. That's it. It's not that painful.
Any other speakers?
We have no additional speakers.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Item 8B on our agenda this evening is from Block by Block Security Ambassadors, who will provide a report on February's activity.
For February's report, we'd like to report 3,463 business contacts from our ambassadors, 723 unhoused contacts. We responded to 403 calls for service for the month of February, performed 29 safety escorts, and 77 social service referrals. In addition, I had the pleasure of taking part in 3 neighborhood watch meetings, and I find that every time that I attend these, I think it gives us an opportunity to talk more about our program organically. We find that still, residents still don't know, how they can use our services. So anytime that we get to, talk to residents about, their concerns and how we can help them and be of an assistance, it's always a benefit to our program. And it also gives us a chance to hear from them, some of the great things that our ambassadors are able to do for them. At the Ogden Owls meeting, there was a couple of women there from the Community Cats organization who shared a really great story about one of our ambassadors taking the time to provide a safety escort across town to an elderly female that could not get to where she needed to get to, and then shared a picture of a selfie that they took. So it's always nice to hear that we're able to do this for the community. In addition, I wanted to highlight some incidences that occurred where our ambassadors were able to proactively assist in those situations. The first one, on February 2nd, two of our ambassadors on a proactive patrol in the West Hollywood Park encountered an unconscious female young woman who later was found that she had come from the Abbey, who was unresponsive. They provided 4 doses of Narcan and were able to bring her to be more alert. They then were able to contact her mother, who was able to pick her up. Paramedics were called and they assessed her and released her. But that happened around 9:30 on February 2nd, and our ambassadors were there to provide some Narcan. On February 16th at about 4:50 a.m., upon returning to our east space during our proactive patrol, 2 of our ambassadors observed that the Wenner Jewelry Store on Santa Monica Boulevard had shown signs of a possible burglary. Alarms were going off, and they looked to have maybe seen somebody inside the store, so they contacted sheriffs. Sheriffs arrived, assessed the situation, and took over from there. They did not stand by to see if somebody was in the building, but they were able to get sheriffs involved and to assist with that situation. And then lastly, there was an ambassador assault at Kings Road Park on February 17th. So our ambassadors also take part in closing a lot of the pocket parks throughout the city, Kings Road Park being one of them. So when they close these parks, they do a sweep of the park, restrooms included. And so in doing so, an unhoused individual became irate, attacked one of our ambassadors with a glass bottle. They were not seriously injured. They were fine. They did not require medical attention. But that did occur, and they were able to get help from the sheriffs. The individual was arrested and then charged. I think that's all I have for February, so I'd love to answer any questions that any of you may have.
Commissioners, any comments at this time? Vice Chair?
Hello.
Hi.
How are you? Just had a question about current staffing levels. Where are we, numbers-wise?
So I don't have our actual numbers, but we are experiencing lower staffing levels than we have in the last couple of months. We have experienced some churn with some of our staff, but this week we are doing some interviews and hosting some open interviews to fill those roles, and we will continue to do that until we get staffing levels back up to where they need to be.
And just remind us, maybe the public, what is the total number that we'd ideally like to see?
Total, including our trolley contracts, is 95.
95. Mm-hmm. Okay. And one last question. I've just heard from some folks recently that they're still not seeing block by block on their streets. So aside from the main thoroughfares, which we know there's just more activity on those, is that something that you're still working those same routes? That is still part of the operations that you are going up side streets?
So yes, and obviously, our community is always, they've also got, the ability to call us for service just in case we don't make it up a route. But we are always assessing, the needs of the community and where we reallocate our resources. So if that means that sometimes we've got to reallocate, different parts of the city depending on activity that we're seeing throughout, we'll do that. Sometimes that does mean that, they won't see, an ambassador on their street. So if you think about the service areas that we provide throughout the city, 95 ambassadors spread over a 24-hour time period it will get scarce. But right now, like I said, we're working on getting our staffing levels back to where they need to be. And so in that time, if anybody has any concerns or they need extra assistance regarding like calls for service, we are still providing calls for service. Our service times are still pretty good. They're still about 14 minutes. So we're still able to get and answer calls for service in a pretty rapid manner.
I would just say, compliment the crew at the park, at Salguerillo Park. They've been very responsive. That CVS is a trouble spot. I've witnessed it myself. You can basically just walk in and grab whatever you like and head back out to your spot on the street and write in chalk. And apparently whipped cream was their thing, I think, this week. But the folks at the park were very responsive and, immediately went over to assess the situation. So it's nice having that sort of constant position, I think, for folks as well.
So one thing we've also done, I forgot to mention this, a few weeks ago we also relaunched our DTEX program. So basically what our kiosk ambassadors are now able to do is they will perform a route every 30 minutes, especially at these kiosk areas. So it allows us to be more proactive in a more consistent manner. For example, the CVS, there's a route that they follow. So it's not just, there by the CVS, they'll also cross the street, go around, check hot spots, any little area that, might need some extra attention, address it proactively. And so that allows us to also remain mobile. And so this is happening at all the kiosks. It's happening at La Brea, it's happening at Robertson, Ramada, La Jolla, our Fairfax and Fountain, Veterans. So it enables us to be a little bit more mobile versus just, stationary at the kiosk, especially times where, we're not able to maybe send an ambassador to do a proactive patrol. We've got those kiosk ambassadors to do that more proactively and more often.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nickel.
Now it's working. Good to see you, Erica.
Hi.
The call that you mentioned in West Hollywood Park, the lady that had left a bar and then was saved using Narcan, do we know if it was an overdose? Was it a possibility of, I always worry about drinks being spiked. I mean, we have the test strips. When you mentioned that she came from a bar and she was there and she was unresponsive, it was unfortunately the first thing I thought of. Do you have any details in that, if you can even talk about it?
Yeah, so I mean, with Narcan, it works to reverse the effects of an opioid overdose, right? What that opioid is, we don't know. But if someone responds to being administered Narcan, then we can, with almost 100% certainty, say that it's opioid-based.
Got it, understood.
Yeah.
And thank you for letting us know that the ambassador was okay after being attacked. I hate that they were attacked, as they were just going around to close the park. It's an issue that now we've heard from several people tonight. Mr. Wilson talked about it, other people talked about it. It is not people who are living on the streets. It's people who are living on the streets and react in this way. It's a problem. It's not safe for them or for us or for the people that are there to protect us.
Yeah, and as it gets later, so we always send our ambassadors, or as much as possible, especially when closing the parks, we always send them in pairs. They're safe that way. But with anybody, who needs a safety escort, it's always better to be, with somebody else. So again, we'd like to remind the public that if you are walking home and you don't feel safe, our safety escorts are still available. They're available 24/7. So that's one way to, deter any potential, safety concerns.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Commission Secretary, do we have any public speakers?
Yes, Victor Omel-Shazenko.
Victor Omelchenko, again, longtime West Hollywood resident. I don't get to these meetings that often, but I thought I'd take that opportunity. It's Miss Leone, isn't it? Yes. And I wanted to say that I met Miss Leone at the Ogden Owls neighborhood meeting, which was a very well-attended meeting by our council people, not all of them because of the Brown Act, but several of them, our commissioner, Mr. Nickel, Danny Hang, Chelsea Byers, and others, fire representatives, police department, sheriff's department, as well as block by block, where I made the suggestion that maybe in the future, given that I think more crimes happen at night, not during the day so much, although they do happen during the day, could we look at expanding the kiosks beyond those that are 24/7 in like this West Hollywood park by the lavatory? Maybe there's a need for those. I did hear that you could call 24/7 for being able to be escorted home if you're not feeling safe. But I'm just curious. I understand there's about 13 of these kiosks, but they close up shop, most of them around 5:36 as the sun goes down. And do we possibly need a couple more based on maybe analysis of crime statistics at night? Furthermore, I know several of the ambassadors, and when I walk around and when I shop in my neighborhood, and I'm not afraid to speak with them, and I talk to them, and I actually brought up the issue of the rubbish fires because I had looked at the report, noticing the increase of 4 in February of last year to 21. That seems to be a rather alarming increase, and whatever we can do and whatever the fire department can do to kind of maybe monitor that. One of the ambassadors I spoke to told me that they had seen a fire and smoke coming out of a trash receptacle on the east end. They called the fire department and it was put out. I then showed that ambassador the wonderful report replete with lots of statistics and tables, which you commissioners are privy to, which I saw in the actual packet for tonight's meeting. And when I showed that to several of the ambassadors, they were wowed by seeing, oh, this is where the rubbish fires were in the last month in this area of their, jurisdiction and that. So I'm just talking about intercommunication, interchange. Maybe security ambassadors should be treated to the fire department's report that comes out. And maybe for those of us, I think this is televised. And if it is, I think all the tables and the charts that appear in the reports that you commissioners have looked on with the tables and where the fires have been and that, maybe that would be good for the presenters to actually beam onto the screen so those at home could see something visually. So that's my recommendation, and maybe you could make a motion to do that later. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kelly Pilarski.
Hi there, I'm Kelly Pilarski. I'm a West Hollywood resident, and tonight I just wanted to pose a question. So I also walk and use a bicycle in the city, and I was looking at these numbers from the comparison between last February and this February for bicycle miles ridden, and it's quite shocking. 30% less on Santa Monica, 11% less on Sunset, and then over 50% less miles ridden on Melrose. And I'm sure there are many reasons, but I just want to make sure that our block by block ambassadors are safe and they feel safe, they have the bicycle infrastructure that they need to feel safe, they have lights, they have helmets, they have rear view mirrors. Let's make sure that we're giving these guys all of the opportunities that we can to make sure they are supported on our streets as well as everyone else that lives in West Hollywood. So thank you.
Eric, I have a quick question in regards to the bike miles ridden. Can you speak upon why there has been a decrease in the bike miles ridden for the 30% on Santa Monica Boulevard and the 56% off on Sunset Boulevard?
Yeah, it's been a combination of, right now we are actually replacing some of our fleet. Some of our bikes have been used for about 6 or 7 years now, so they've got significant wear and tear. So we're looking to replace them, as a lot of them are repeatedly experiencing issues with different mechanisms. And then the other piece too is obviously our, slight decline in staffing. So obviously if I've got, a few less ambassadors out to patrol on bikes, they're gonna be on foot. So it's a combination of that. So hopefully at the end of the month, we should have a replacement of bikes, and you should start seeing that change a little bit more next month.
Thank you, Erica. Any other commissioner comments? Thank you, Erica. Item 8C on our agenda this evening is from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, who will provide a report on February's activity. Good evening, Sergeant and Lieutenant.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chair Ramian. So for the month of February, West Hollywood Station personnel handled a total of 1,626 calls for service, 67 of those calls being an emergency response. With those emergency response, we had an average response time of just under 4 minutes for those calls. Our deputies made 31 felony arrests and 85 misdemeanor arrests. Our Part 1 crimes for the month of February, we had 159 incidents. When broken down by district, West accounted for 60% with 95, City Center 19% with 31, and East 21% with 33. We had 24 pickpocketing incidents in the Rainbow District. We'd like to remind people with summer and Pride season coming up that obviously those districts in that area is going to be increasing in numbers. Just to keep their items safe, put them in their front pockets, keep purses and bags closed and sealed. Have your friends watch out for you. The pickpocketing numbers have gone down slightly, but always when summer and Pride comes around, those numbers will increase again. Our MET team responded to a total of 65 incidents for the month of February. We had 51 SORTS submissions for the City of West Hollywood, and again, SORTS is our online reporting, which we have that has certain criteria that needs to be met to make those online reports. West Hollywood continues to be one of the front-running stations with SORTS reports, which is a great asset to the department, and it's very helpful for community members. On March 16th, the LA Marathon came through the city. I'm happy to report that there were no major incidents with the marathon. We had one minor medical. Beyond that, it was a great event, and it was attended by hundreds of residents and onlookers. A save the date for us for April 21st from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. West Hollywood Station, in conjunction with the American Red Cross, will be hosting the Battle of the Badges Blood Drive. This is a yearly event that we host at the station. It is open for anyone to donate blood. Walk-ins are welcome. However, there will be a online application / registration system set in place. They haven't given us that information yet. If you follow our social media, it'll be posted on there soon. I put some flyers in the lobby, again, just to save the date, April 21st. We are open to any questions you may have.
Thank you. Commissioner Blau?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your report. I had a quick question on especially the traffic citations on Fountain Avenue. 104 or 106 is very large. It's in line with my experience as a resident and pedestrian of how people use that. But was there a specific traffic operation done on Fountain?
There were several traffic operations that were conducted in Fountain because of the request of community members. And so there was, I want to say there was 3 different operations where our mortar deputies conducted operations, just specifically on Fountain.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much. That's my big question. Thank you.
Vice Chair Harrison.
Hello, thanks for the report. I just have a question. Our speaker earlier talked about his experience at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, being arrested and robbed at gunpoint. That area has been historically problematic, and I know we've talked before about cameras on the station, and I'm not suggesting that that would have stopped what happened. Thankfully, Le Petit Hermitage had cameras. I'm just wondering where that stands, that investigation. Do you have any leads? Are there any other incidents similarly that have been reported? It's just odd that that area just attracts, so much.
Unfortunately, I don't have an update on that. I'll follow up and I'll have an answer for you for the next meeting as far as what the update is with the detectives. I didn't follow up with the detectives, but I know that it's unfortunate. I mean, it's unfortunate to hear that anybody was a victim of any of the crimes. But I know that having the cameras, I think it's going to help, especially the live feed cameras, to when the call comes up, to potentially follow where the individuals go, get license plates, and then we're going to have, in the near future, we're having that trailer camera that is going to come up, and we can position it in any location where we see a high volume of crime. So I think that's one of the, the technology platform that's going to be an asset to us, that's going to help us solve, any type of, or at least help us, be an extra set of eyes out there.
Thank you. And I just, it's been talked about, but I think what you did on Fountain was a great example of how we can sort of help the traffic situation here. It was really good to see those numbers.
No, yes, and again, that was as a request to the community request. So the mortar deputies do that. They have a list of locations that are considered hotspots, but if there's a specific request, they use. They'll provide an operation. There's certain hours out of the day that they'll focus specifically on Fountain or whatever other location. So I know that there's several locations that we're going to be conducting special operations just to kind of mitigate. And again, a lot of it is education as well. It's not just, citing, but it's also education, because it's not necessarily our residents that are the ones, it's a thoroughfare. West Hollywood is a thoroughfare to get from point A to point B. So citations is one, but it's also education.
Lieutenant and Sergeant, thank you for your report. It's always a pleasure and delight to see you guys. I have a question in regards to the pickpocket thefts. For the month of February, there were 24. January, there were 8. So for the month to date, we have 32 with 0 arrests. In 2024, for the entire year, there were 398 pickpockets with only 7 arrests. I'm just a little concerned with the pickpocketers. I know it's really hard to make arrests, but is there anything that could be done differently, more undercover operations at the venues? Because it is becoming really ridiculous to the point where, visitors from around the world are being known, West Hollywood is being known as the cell phone theft capital of the world. So I just want to know if there's anything that the community could do, something that the Sheriff's Department is going to possibly do differently to reduce the number of pickpocket thefts.
Yes, so the biggest thing with us and the pickpocketing is education, essentially. Letting the word out there with the bars, the residents, the people that come into the city that it is a problem, and to protect their items and to be aware of their surroundings. That's the biggest thing, is getting those people aware of the situation. Our entertainment policing team does go to bars and clubs on a regular basis to try to inform their staff, their management, that it is a problem, and have their staff be the eyes and ears essentially for the customers and for us. That's where a lot of the arrests do stem from, is because heads-up security officers at those clubs and bars, they do see things happen in there and they do take action. So that's one of the greatest helps for us, is basically having those people aware of the problem and to watch out for it. You know, having the pickpocketers come in, it's hard to stop that. I mean, this area is so dense with entertainment district type of venues that they're going to come here no matter what. So just making those people aware, keeping everybody informed, I think that's the best battle for us right now. We have done undercover operations in the past. It's tough. It's really tough for us to go in and try to figure out who doesn't belong when we're not normally going into those venues. The people that work at those venues are the ones that really are there to help us.
I completely agree, and maybe advising the community to, you know, keep your cell phones in your front pockets, not in your back pockets. You know, when I've, you know, frequented establishments in West Hollywood, and you see ladies leaving their purses on top of the bar. So a lot has to do with education, and maybe if the city could sponsor some kind of an education forum for the community when it comes to stuff like that. I know it's self-explanatory. Don't leave your purse unattended. You know, don't leave your cell phone hanging out of your back pocket. Maybe if there's something that we can do to help communicate that to visitors and to the community, that would be a positive direction, I think.
And I think one of the other things that has worked, because in 2023 it was high, the numbers were high in 2023, there was a reduction in 2024, and hopefully we continue with the reduction coming in for 2025, is partnering with the businesses, is partnering with their security staff, start seeing something, and then they start following those individuals, and those individuals know that they're being followed or they're identified. Right. And I know within the businesses, like if they go into your establishment already knows that those people have been caught stealing in the past. So I think it's a great idea. I know that we try, entertainment policing does that education, and that's the only way that we've had a few of the arrests. I know that our EPT a couple of years back were the ones that witnessed, you know, some of the pickpocketing and where they went. But partnering with the businesses and having, you know, you're the one that knows the people that come in who, you know, they come in with backpacks and they come in and it's a multitude of people working in concert, that when we see somebody take a cell phone, we don't even know where the cell phone ended up. But I know that security staff and management, I think partnering with them, I think that has helped, you know, reduce the numbers, and education is key, like Sergeant Durante spoke. So. And
you're absolutely correct, because I believe there was a couple of thefts that were caught at Beaches Tropicana, where the security guards at that venue identified the pickpocketers. Correct. And I believe, you know, a couple of other security guards at Revolver noticed a couple of pickpocketers, and they do send pictures of these people who are committing these crimes to all the other leads in the neighborhood. So that is a good point, communicating with all the business owners.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Post.
Yes, I just noticed there wasn't a Met team number. Was that omitted, or was there any reason? Or if you could provide that number, that'd be great as well.
I think I did. Did I mention it? Yeah, I think I mentioned it. So the Met team responses were 65 for this month. I just got that data a little bit on the late side. That's why it didn't make the actual paper.
No worries. And then I know I've talked about it with you before, Lieutenant Lapkin, just kind of how these alternative response programs may come into play and communicate with you all. Is there ever any instances where you all might refer someone or an incident that comes into Healthcare in Action, and or likewise the other way around? Do you all receive calls from when Healthcare in Action goes out into the city and might have to refer an incident to you all?
Absolutely, all the time. I mean, our teams for sure, and even our patrol deputies, anytime they need, whether it be the care teams or Healthcare in Action, they have a number and they call. And if they need us, in return, they call us as well. So it is an ongoing, you know, communication specifically with those two programs that they work hand in hand with the deputies.
Just to piggyback on that, Healthcare in Action was out this morning and did work with some of our cops team deputies. They encountered somebody down off of Melrose, and they weren't willing to talk to the Healthcare in Action folks, but they were willing to talk to the deputies, which usually is kind of the opposite way, but turned out it worked out pretty well, and we worked together with them to get that person some resources.
Awesome, thank you.
Commissioner Blau? Commissioner Nickel?
Thank you, Chair. Sergeant Tron, Lieutenant Lapkin, good to see you. Thanks for the report. I did have a question about, there were some news reports about an outage of the LASD emergency 911 system. It was just 20 minutes, I understand. It did affect all 23 stations. I know that earlier, around the new year, there was another outage of a system. Is there anything that we can do, that you need from us to help keep these things from happening?
I know that the sheriff is working with our board of supervisors to provide an updated system, because Captain Mueller always says our systems are put together by duct tape and paper clips. But we're moving forward to, I believe they've already identified a program that's going to take place over a CAD system, and I believe it should be up and running by midsummer. So I know that we are moving in the right direction. I know the Board of Supervisors is committed to helping the Sheriff's Department get into updated technology. But I know that our sheriff is working to have all those programs fixed or replaced. So.
That's excellent news, because
Yes.
it was the CAD system that went down earlier in the year.
Correct.
So good. Could you talk a little bit about, I know that the West Hollywood Sheriff's Station did participate in a task force that recovered a lot of stolen merchandise, some of it from West Hollywood, from booster crews. I know that this is an issue. If you could talk about how much of an issue it is here in the city.
I know I can't get into too much into the details because it's still an ongoing investigation, but I know that late last year we had a lot of the smash and grabs or individuals coming into a couple of our businesses here, but our major crimes, who were part of the retail theft, came in and conducted several undercover operations, and due to those undercover operations, it became a bigger operation where they recovered, I don't know the number, but in the millions of stolen property, and our teams were able to help support the efforts of the search warrant.
Excellent. It's always good to hear about good results.
Yes.
And finally, following up on things that members of the community had talked about, when it does come to the unhoused, and I know it's in our report every single month. This month was only 55 contacts made. That's low. That's low for you guys. Normally it's higher, but it is in line with the services accepted. It was 4. So you do outreach all the time. When I've done ride-alongs, the deputy went out of his way to do outreach. Just to help residents understand the situation and what you can and you cannot do. If there are people sleeping in doorways, I know that if there's an encampment put up, that is against the law and it has to be taken down. Could you just talk a little bit about this, that who residents should call and what they can do if they just have concerns about even somebody maybe they're not well, they're sleeping on the street?
So we have several, it's kind of a three-prong approach. So there's, if you have somebody that is blocking a doorway, and I know we discussed what and I won't speak to what Erica Leone and her block do, but you could call them and they can try to get them to move them along. If for whatever reason they don't, and they're creating I don't want to say they're creating a problem, but they don't want to move, then they call us, and then we go resolve that issue. Yes, there is no encampment, there is no blocking a sidewalk. So we go talk to the individuals if they're blocking a sidewalk, if they have their items, everywhere. We go talk to them that they have to gather their stuff. And for the most part, when they see us, they're cooperative and they do gather their belongings or they move along. There are times, every single time I can tell you that the deputies offer them services. It depends on how the individual is feeling. Sometimes, like I think in previous meetings, we talked about how the rapport that our deputies have with some individuals, they know them by their first name. They know if you describe somebody wearing these type of shoes, this type of jacket, they know exactly who it is. So, and they know the state that they're in. And it's because of the rapport that they have with them. Like you said, sometimes surprisingly that they want to talk to us, instead of speaking to somebody else. But our Met team has a great rapport with our individuals here. So it all depends on what's happening. So I can't do a painting by the, a large, paintbrush. It has to be specific. But at any time, if you have a question, if the residents have a question as to, there's an individual blocking a doorway, there's an individual blocking, a sidewalk, call us. We'll go out there and move them along. But we do have, people. I know that the care teams is 24 hours now. They're going to be pushing out. They have a phone number now where we can call the care teams if we see an individual and you think they need help. Block by Block has that access as well to call the care team as well if they need if the individual needs help, then they call them. Again, if they get to the point where it becomes where they're unstable and they think they need us, then that's when they call us. But I know that everything, we kind of work in concert together, sometimes together, literally together at the same time, or other time is just by referrals.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hallman.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to circle back to pickpocketing because we are going to get into the season. I know you mentioned that dialogue has been had with business owners, correct? Has that information ever been passed on to the individuals that are at the door? Because each and every establishment in the Rainbow District, you have to show identification to get in. Shouldn't that person be an individual to maybe alert patrons to hold on, be more cautious, be more aware, because they are the first point of contact when someone's entering a bar? It doesn't have to be everyone, just when they think it's necessary, because this is only going to escalate. And they are, again, that individual that could, help prevent a lot of these situations.
Yeah, ideally, yes. I mean, that would be great, but we do understand that some businesses don't want to alarm their clientele. They don't want their clientele or their customers feeling unsafe. And I know that some in the past have been a little bit hesitant to do that just because it makes that feel, and they don't want to turn their customer away, essentially. But having them do that would be great. It would be great for us to have the doorman say, hey, here, let me see your ID. Be careful, there's pickpocketers out there. Have fun.
I mean, I think it's something that we can even bring up with our entertainment policing, just to, suggest, to the establishments. We're not going to dictate what policies or what they use, or what they do, but we can suggest based on, especially the information sharing.
Yeah, sure, and just so that guests are aware.
Correct.
Not to terrorize anyone or terrify anyone, but just so they're aware.
There's some establishments that do have signs up and say, beware of pickpocketers. Keep your, they give you, bullet points of things that you should be doing. Don't put your phones, in back pocket, leave your purses unattended, that kind of things.
Okay, thank you.
Director Rivas, I have a quick question in regards to the pickpocketing. I know West Hollywood has these new LED displays on certain streets, which shows City of West Hollywood news, upcoming events. Will it be possible to maybe, on a rotation, have some kind of signage on those displays warning visitors and residents to beware of pickpocketers?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So that's something that we'll definitely communicate with our communications department on, especially leading into Pride and some of our major events. I think the challenge, of course, is, a lot of the folks that patronize the businesses aren't residents, aren't people that are local. And so it's difficult, right, to kind of communicate out. And that's where I would agree 100% with our sheriff station that the biggest or most effective, I should say, strategy is, making sure that the businesses can let folks know, but, some businesses are reluctant and you can't force them to have their, security in the front. But I think having messaging on the bus shelters, as you mentioned, as folks that are visitors or walking, hopefully that could capture their attention to that communication. So we'll definitely look into that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other commissioner comments? Commission Secretary, do we have any public speakers on this matter?
Yes, Victor Omel-Shazenko.
I was just looking at the wonderful written report that was provided. Victor Omolchenko, West Hollywood. I again encourage the kinds of reports and the tables that are easy to understand, that I can understand easily, that are provided to you as our commissioners, that maybe they be made available on the screen as our law enforcement officials talk. I think that would be helpful to folks who I think you are televised and viewing it. I think it's valuable information, and it kind of lets you see it up front there. I really like the fact that the procedures for filing complaints and for commendations are included in this most recent report. And regarding the scooters and the e-bikes, I'm kind of feel a little bit, more safe in that there were only 2 such occurrences on February 10th when a bicyclist was not at fault. The driver caused the accident due to unsafe passing. In this whole safety world, we talk about bicyclists and scooters and walkers and pedestrians and disabled folks, but we never seem to really talk about the people in their big cars driving their monstrosities faster on their cell phones. I wonder if any are ever ticketed when they're driving their cars using their cell phones. I didn't see any of those kinds of statistics. But the fact that on February 27th, there was a person, a bicyclist on an electronic bike, and they were ticketed for failing to stop at a solid red signal, and that was at Fountain and Vista. So it is good to see that kind of enforcement activity going on. For a city built on entertainment and liquor, I guess, and that, when I look at the statistics, I guess we should be fortunate that there were only 5 drinking under the influence arrests in February. So maybe people are just going out and the bars are taking care of people not drinking enough, but I just wonder whether is that really, is that the extent of people who are driving under the influence? And then in my last minute, I'd just like to say, it's budgetary time. We just got a passed at the federal level continuing resolution. As a former federal employee, I'm very happy that the government did not shut down. All kinds of mischief could have occurred. But as you approach the city budget process, which begins, will start July, you may, I'm sure, have an agendized item about what you feel should be the resources. I thank Commissioner Nickel for asking the fire official, are there any other things you need? And they kind of said, yeah, things are okay. But as our commissioners looking out for public safety, I hope that you have a chance to look at the budget, at the draft budget, and it might be presented to you by city staff, I'm not sure, but even as individual people, you can go and talk about more money for public safety, because it is our #1 priority. Thank you so much.
Any other speakers?
We have no additional speakers.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Next item on our agenda for this evening, the Public Safety Commission will discuss the review process for the request for proposal for unarmed security services.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Commission. The City of West Hollywood is preparing to release a request for proposal, referred to as an RFP, for unarmed security services as the current contract expires on June 30th, 2025. This RFP will outline the city's need for unarmed security services in the community and at specific locations, meetings, and events. As part of this RFP vendor selection process, the city's Community Safety Department would like to invite 2 members of the Public Safety Commission to assist in reviewing and interviewing potential vendors. Generally, the chair and vice chair of the commission would serve as the 2 members involved representing the commission in this type of process. However, the commission may choose to elect 2 other commissioners to serve in these roles if they desire. The chair and vice chair and/or the 2 commissioners elected to participate in the RFP process will have to commit to making themselves available on the days and times established to review the submitted applications and provide input. This typically includes spending at least 3 to 4 full days of time. The dates are not yet available, however, they will most likely fall towards the beginning of May. The Commission's participation in this RFP process will be invaluable in ensuring that the selected vendor meets the city's needs and standards for quality, professionalism, and reliability. Thank you.
Thank you. Quick question. So this, the RFP that we're submitting, is this in addition to block by block, or are we looking to bring in more unarmed security guards?
So the unarmed security guard service that is currently selected and fulfilled is by block. However, that contract expires on June 30th, 2025. So the city has to formally go out to pursue continuing the unarmed security service to the city.
So is this where we'd now allocate 2 members of the commission?
Yes,
Or
if you want to follow either doing the chair and vice chair, or you can select 2 other members of the commission.
commissioners, your thoughts?
I'm perfectly fine with the chair and the vice chair taking care of it. But I just do have a question. Would it come back to us after they do go through the process?
So if time permits, based on the application process and the vetting process, we would like to bring it back to the commission. However, it is going to be dependent on just time constraints because the contract does expire on June 30th, and we do also need to take it to City Council for approval. So just because of the deadlines and timelines, it may not be able to come back to the commission, but if time permits, we absolutely will bring it back.
Thank you. I move that the chair and the vice chair take care of it
question.
unless other
Sorry.
people have questions.
Sorry, one question. Just technical question. You said the beginning of May. Do you have an exact date? Are virtual meetings possible? I'm asking for a friend who might be out of town that week.
It will likely be in person, just because there's going to be a lot of material to review, and there's going to be many other panel members involved. So just for the sake of that collaboration, it'll likely be an in-person meeting.
And Vice Chair, just to add to that, so you're more than likely going to have a combination. So typically in an RFP process, there will be a briefing ahead of time. That more than likely will be done virtually. But the in-person kind of interviews of the potential vendors, that's typically done in person. And then there's usually a debrief as well. And so right now, as Anita mentioned, we're still kind of working out kind of the schedule. But so I would definitely kind of see it more as a combination of the two.
Great. And the process, though, would be beginning of May. So starting with the...
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Sorry, don't mean to bore everyone with scheduling, but...
Yeah, yeah. And as soon as we have the dates, like we'll definitely let the two individuals from the Public Safety Commission know.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Well, I mean, typically, first right of refusal goes to the chair and vice chair, and if one or the other is not able to attend, then we go on and make a decision who would go in their place.
So the commissioners have no objection. I would say it would be myself and Vice Chair Harrison.
Correct.
Commissioners? All right. There it
Verbal
is.
thumbs up.
So it'll be myself and Vice Chair Harrison for the RFPs.
Thank you, Chair. Noted, and we will be in touch as soon as we have those dates so we can make those accommodations for you as well for your calendars. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Secretary, are there any public speakers at this time?
We have no public speakers.
Great. Thank you. Moving along, item 9 on our agenda this evening is items from staff. Are there any community safety updates?
Good evening. Yes, we do have some items to share with you tonight. Please join us on Wednesday, March 26th from 11:30 to 1:30 at the City Council chambers for the Public Safety Awards ceremony. We will be recognizing members of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Los Angeles County Fire Department, Bach by Bach, and our Code Enforcement Division. If you have any questions, please email safety@weho.org. The Los Angeles Marathon and the Elton John AIDS Foundation annual Oscars party took place this month. Both events went well, and there were no significant disruptions or incidents related to the event to report. Thank you to our public safety partners for their planning efforts to keep the community safe. At the June Public Safety Commission meeting, the city's Human Services Division will provide a presentation to the commission, providing an overview of the various services and resources available in the community. The City of West Hollywood, in partnership with the American Red Cross, will be hosting a free CPR, first aid, and AED certified training at the West Hollywood Aquatic Center on April 12th. To register, please visit go.weho.org/enrollment or email wehoaquatics@weho.org. There will be a CERT alumni meeting on May 20th at 6 p.m. at the ARC in the Doheny Room for West Hollywood residents who have received CERT training in past years to allow for an opportunity to stay connected, network, and discuss emergency preparedness in our community. We invite West Hollywood residents who have completed their CERT training to join us. City staff and our public safety partners are in full gear planning for Pride 2025, which will take place May 30th through June 1st. We look forward to another successful and safe event. At the April Public Safety Commission meeting next month, we will be swearing in the 2 new Public Safety Commission members, Catherine Eng and Kelly Pilarski. We are grateful and extend our gratitude to outgoing commissioners Joy Freiberg and Stephen Post for their contributions and commitment to the Public Safety Commission and to the City of West Hollywood. Thank you. As a reminder, we encourage all community members to sign up to receive emergency notifications by texting your zip code to 888-777. This concludes the updates from the Public Safety Division. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, just one more thing too that we want to just take advantage of the folks that are viewing the Public Safety Commission. Tomorrow, we will be conducting an evacuation exercise at City Hall. And that will include pulling the fire alarm. So I know Anita and team have definitely been doing a great job leading that effort and communicating to businesses that are adjacent to City Hall. And so the entire building will be evacuated, and that also includes any community members of the public that are at City Hall at that time, at that specific period where we're doing the evacuation. So again, it is a planned evacuation drill. And so we just wanted to put that out there as well and just letting the folks in the community know.
What time was that at?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Anita, I think it's at 11 a.m. So I would say 11 a.m., give or take some minutes of when that will be conducted. And the fire alarm, as I mentioned, will be pulled. It'll go on for some time, and then everybody will be allowed to go back in after the exercise is completed.
Thank you. All right. Item 10 on our agenda this evening is second round of public comments. Commission Secretary, do we have any speakers at this time?
Yes, we have one speaker, Victor Omelshazenko.
Victor Omolchenko again, longtime West Hollywood resident. When I heard the word evacuation, you know what came in my mind? Earthquake awareness. Now, I know that November is Earthquake Awareness Month, but during the fires and that we just lived through, I felt the earth shake a couple of times too. And just for the good of the order, I'd like to alert you, and I'm sure you've heard about the effort that the city has been undergoing over the last few years to seismically retrofit our soft story structure apartment buildings that are built on those sticks that could then fall down in an earthquake, and then everybody would have to move somewhere else. And so I just, as our commission, at some point you may get an item where you get a report from the city, or you could ask the city, what's the status of our buildings being seismically retrofitted, because it's been going on for a while now. And talking about also evacuation, it's more like evacuation of dirt. As I understand it, the 27,000 truckloads of dirt that will have to be put back into the tragic Melrose Triangle Never Done project has just begun today. 27,000 trucks of dirt, and so I'm sure that's going to create a traffic situation. It might be a public safety issue. I haven't seen much talk about what's it going to be like at Doheny and Santa Monica and Melrose at that tragic Melrose Triangle hole where we were all regaled and promised by the developers who are now in federal prison that we would have affordable housing and mixed-use businesses and everything. And it's really sad, and I wonder what the impact will be on public health and safety and on the environment. And the last thing I'd like to say is I really appreciated our council member John Heilman at a recent meeting bringing up the issue about safety in our affordable housing complexes, such as the one at the Avalon where the Trader Joe's is on the east side, where it turns out that there's only one elevator in the all-affordable senior disabled building. That elevator has not been, it's been not operative much, leaving a lot of people, you know, kind of like stuck on the upper floors. And in the future, it's just an issue that may come up, that maybe when these kinds of affordable housing projects are built, maybe they should have more than one elevator, you know, one more to help the people who live there. I know you're not supposed to use elevators in a fire or in an earthquake, but it's interesting how these kinds of projects get through and get built, and they're only built with one elevator. Maybe that was the California code, but maybe we could strengthen our local codes as these new buildings get built. Maybe more elevators to let people get out of a building when they need to. Thank you.
Any other speakers?
Additional speakers.
Thank you. All right, item 11 on our agenda for this evening is commissioner comments. Do any commissioners have comments at this time? Commissioner Hallman?
Thank you, Chair. I'm still plagued by the lack of information that I feel we don't get from traffic and what's going on our streets. I know we put in crossing lights at certain intersections, but I don't know how safe they are. And also, I'm noticing in the Rainbow District in the evening, when we have the highest number of patrons out, people don't seem to adhere to traffic lights and stops. They like to fly through the intersection. Thankfully, no one has been hit or killed yet. So I would like to make a motion to have traffic come in and do a presentation to us so we know exactly what's going on, you know, on our streets, Fountain Avenue. And I'm not talking about like reducing it down to single lanes. I just want to know what's going on Fountain, what's going on in the Rainbow District and other busy intersections. Like, where are we? Are there any new measures that are coming that we need to be made aware of? So that's my motion I would like to make.
And Commissioner Holman, are you referring to traffic engineering improvements on the streets?
Yes.
Got it. So yeah, I mean, the reason why that information isn't communicated maybe on a more regular basis is that that is not something that falls under the purview of the Public Safety Commission.
Yeah,
However,
Director Reeves, with all disrespect, we are public safety. So someone has to explain to me why we can't get a report or get an update of what's going on.
Yeah, so in terms of a report or an update, we can certainly make a request, and if there's specifics that the commission wants our traffic engineering team to come and provide, sometimes it's blended with planning as well, and I know we've had our transportation kind of planning team come and give an update not too long ago. I don't know if it was last month or maybe the month prior, and so there is kind of a collective effort. But I know updates are provided to the Transportation and Mobility Commission. But if there's information, again, that's specific, then you can certainly make that request as the commission, and we will put that request into our Public Works Department team. No differently than I know other commissioners have asked about wanting to get an update and presentation from our Human Services Division, which is again is a separate department. And so, you know, we can certainly work with them to try to see their feasibility of coming in. But what would be helpful is if there's specifics that the commission would like this team to come in and present some information on, that would be helpful. But in terms of like regular updates, again, that's what I'm speaking
No,
to.
not a regular update, but I would like to know, are our traffic crossing sections working? What's going on at San Vicente and Santa Monica during the peak hours when patrons are trying to cross the street? And again, motorists are not stopping. They're blowing their horns at people that are trying to cross as the lights are changing. Like, is this being measured in any way?
So I know that the Sheriff's Department does include in their monthly report certain traffic collision information. And I know, again, that's something that gets reviewed with the traffic team on the Public Works Department side of things. So we can certainly look and see if there's maybe a way to try to refine some of that information. But again, I do know that there's mention of that. If there's a traffic collision, et cetera, they give more or less kind of an area, right, of where that occurred.
Well, I mean, I'm throwing it out there. I don't know if anyone else would like to elaborate or if they're understanding where I'm going with this.
Vice Chair Harrison?
Yeah, I think it comes down to enforcement and the capacity to enforce. I think we can all point out examples of areas in the city where we see people driving insanely, not stopping at stop signs, lights, you name it. You know, I think we can all observe that daily in the city. So to me, that seems like an enforcement issue, and where there are examples of where increased enforcement is leading to increased tickets, violators, as example on Fountain Avenue. So I'm excited about those being enforced more. I would say it's also just something that I remember when I moved to this city years ago. If you jaywalked, you got a ticket. People aren't paying attention to those laws anymore either. I've also, and I know there are bigger priorities, but I've seen sheriffs observe this and drive right by. So I don't know if those types of things are being enforced, but I think it works both ways. I think there are also, you know, individuals who are pedestrians that are not following the rules either sometimes. It's just my observations.
Yeah. And when it comes to enforcement, that is definitely something that I know Lieutenant Lapkin had just spoken about a little earlier during her updates, and with Sergeant Duran. You are seeing an increased level of citations that I believe Commissioner Blau had mentioned that along Fountain Avenue. And not only was that as a result of community members bringing that to the attention, but that was actually discussed during our last semi-annual community safety update that went before the City Council. And so there was a request. We certainly communicate with the Sheriff's Department. Again, there's meetings that occur internally in terms of identifying if there are problematic intersections, et cetera. And so, you know, it's helpful, obviously, for the Sheriff's Department to deploy their resources, their traffic enforcement specifically. We do have 2 motor units that are dedicated as a part of our existing contract here in West Hollywood. And as you've heard me and others explain, not only to the Public Safety Commission, but even to the City Council, there is not the ability to add additional resources to any of the contracts with the Sheriff's Department at this time, not just for West Hollywood, but for the other 41 contract cities that contract for law enforcement services with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. So when you look at 2 motor units and you're looking at 7 days a week, 24/7, I think everyone can kind of do the math. It's pretty scarce, but they do the best job that they can in terms of the requests that they have coming in. If there's more focused operations where they can do that on overtime, taking advantage of our supplemental budget, also taking advantage of our SLEFS grant, our supplemental law enforcement services funding that we also are provided by the state. And so we utilize all those resources, right, and try to allocate them to the best of our ability. But if there is a specific, again, a specific intersection and you're wanting to make a request to kind of pull hey, are you all seeing traffic collisions occurring here? What's the enforcement, kind of compliance, et cetera? Are there things that are occurring to make those recommendations and those requests? Yes, that's certainly something that we can certainly look into. And there's a two-prong approach to that. You have enforcement, as Vice Chair had mentioned, but then you have the traffic engineering part. And so that is what I am communicating to the Commission. Even though there's input and there's opportunity when those folks come in as a part of projects, as a part of initiatives, as a part of directives that they receive to come and conduct outreach, that does occur. And you all have experienced, who are sitting here on the Commission this evening, that occur. But in terms of getting regular updates, that is something that falls more, again, directly under the purview of the Transportation and Mobility Commission and not under the Public Safety Commission. So happy to work with those departments to provide as much information as possible. And we'll work with them to see what their availability is to coming in, presenting some information. But if there is a request this evening, again, I would ask the Commission to really be specific. So we want to make sure that staff that are coming in to provide information are doing so that's fulfilling that specific request. And also for us, understanding that all of the departments outside of community safety have very robust work plans. And so they're working on a number of items. They're presenting to different commissions or working on a variety of different things as well. And so I certainly want to be sensitive to that as well, no differently than when we're getting requests for another department to come in and provide information. And so I do know that our Human Services Department is going to be looking at coming in and providing information to the Commission based off a request that we received several months ago. But again, we have to be sensitive to those requests, that department's work plan, et cetera. But we can certainly fulfill it and look into it. But as much specificity that the Commission could provide and the information that they're looking for would be helpful for us.
And I think if I want to just follow up on what Commissioner Hallman said, and I think I understand what Commissioner Hallman is saying. If we were to pick 5 problematic intersections in West Hollywood, Santa Monica and San Vicente, Fairfax and Santa Monica, Fountain and Fairfax, and wanting to know why are those intersections the problematic? Why, for example, this isn't realistic, but it's a made-up intersection, Santa Monica and Fairfax, why are there 20 pedestrians getting hit in that intersection? So if I'm understanding correctly, wanting to know what's going on at those intersections, because it is a public safety issue. It is pedestrians out on the street being hit. So if I understand, I think that's what Commissioner Hallman is saying.
As I mentioned ad nauseum, Fountain and La Brea. The incidents that have repeatedly happened there. I feel we are not getting the correct information. So maybe we need to pick, as Chair said, 5 intersections. And then have someone come in and give us metrics on what's happening in those intersections. But I'm befuddled when I'm told it's not a public safety issue. I realize other commissions are involved in other departments, but we are the Public Safety Commission.
Yeah, and understood. And the bylaws for the Public Safety Commission, no differently than the other commissions, and the municipal code guide what a commission's purview is, what the work plan essentially should be focused on. And so we certainly are concerned as well if there are problematic intersections and things that are occurring and there's information and data to support that, then obviously you're looking at it from a variety of different prongs, right? You're not just looking at it from doing more enforcement in that intersection at that location. You're looking at what other improvements, right, could be made from a traffic engineering perspective. And that's something that we don't have that area of expertise. That's something that our Public Works Department right? Our traffic engineers that are licensed and our consultants that help folks do that, that's what they're looking at, right? Is looking at what improvements, what enhancements can be made. And so if there's a request to get input, feedback, and asking those questions, then we will make that request. And again, bring back and circle back with the commission when, information can be provided or what type of information can be shared. I mean, folks on the city team are always happy to do that, but again, I'm always very sensitive, no differently than we get multiple requests to come and speak, whether it's coordinating with fire, with sheriff, with block by block, with code enforcement, to attend a variety of different commission and advisory boards that are outside of Public Safety Commission. And so we try to fulfill those as best as we can, in the community, because the more outreach and the more information we can provide to folks is helpful, right? And so we'll certainly take the request and give us an opportunity, obviously, to speak with the Public Works Department. But I am not going to be making commitments here on, hey, by next commission meeting or the commission meeting after that, you're going to have a presentation on this. But we can work with them and kind of see if they already have maybe some information, some things that we can share and bring back. Or, as I mentioned earlier, maybe highlighting some information and making some adjustments to our monthly reports as well that would be helpful for the commission.
That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking anyone to jump through any hoops. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, understood.
Chair.
Director Rivas, quick question. I don't know if I heard wrong a few years ago. Were we considering making the intersection at Santa Monica and San Vicente a diagonal crossing intersection like Hollywood and Highland? I feel like I had heard about that a while back, especially on the busy Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, making that intersection a little safer, like where you could cross diagonally. Was that something that was discussed, or am I just dreaming?
I don't want to say you were dreaming. I think I could have heard something similar as well, but I don't know if there was ever anything formal regarding that or what has emerged or evolved in that. But I think what might be helpful is us reaching out again to the Public Works Department and seeing the feasibility about getting maybe our traffic engineer or the city engineer to come and be able to kind of respond to some of these things.
Commissioner Post?
Yeah, and I can't remember if this was just a discussion we had or if we had voted it on at some point, or if this has been something that has happened in the past, but I think there was a joint Public Safety and Transportation Commission meeting at some point in the past. If not, is that something that can be done, that is more public, that gives us and us a chance to work with the Transportation Commission and talk more in depth about these issues? Because I know we did receive, I think it was in our December meeting, that Vision Zero presentation, and we did talk about some of these intersections, and I feel like got some of the more traffic engineering type answers, but I don't think we really dug into, could there be a change in the crossing here, or a light ad or something like that could actually change the safety mechanisms there. And I don't know if, again, if we have to work with the Transportation Department, if something like a joint meeting like that has happened. I think it's happened with other commissions in the past, but is that an option to help us kind of focus in on some of these issues?
So I'm unfamiliar, at least in my time with West Hollywood for the last 6 years, of seeing that. Yes, there have been some study sessions. Those are always a little challenging to try to structure. We could certainly, if it's the will of the majority of the commission this evening, is work with our city clerk's office to see if that's even something that's feasible. But we could make the request.
Director Rivas, I know that request has been made previously, and it was something that the city clerk was looking into, but like Commissioner Post mentioned, it kind of fell off. I even actually followed up on that not so long ago, maybe a couple months ago. I had followed up directly with the city clerk on that, but didn't hear anything back. So I think that request has been made just to understand, if nothing else, what our constraints are, because as as the fellow commissioners note, sometimes the boundaries of our purview can be rather frustrating when we're all just here trying to do kind of the best we can,
Sure.
right?
Sure, absolutely, yeah, and we'll follow up with the city clerk's office. I know obviously they've been working on a variety of different things, but not to take anything away from that. So we'll follow up with them following this meeting and see where we're at on that.
Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Nickel?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to again say that I hope that everyone does come out on Wednesday to the Public Safety Awards Luncheon. Last year it was really great. It will be Wednesday 11:30 to I believe 1:30 right here. And I attended the Ogden Owls Neighborhood Watch meeting, which was really great. Our public safety partners were well represented, and congratulations to Mike Carter, who's the captain of the Owls, who put that together. And actually, when we were getting our fire report, it reminded me of something. We were talking about the dumpster fires. And Mike had a representative from Athens speak there. And what was very interesting is she talked about exactly what Assistant Fire Chief Smith talked about. She talked about the things that you cannot and should not put in a dumpster because they could start a fire. I don't know if it will be possible to get a very tiny presentation. Maybe it would make sense for them to come and speak to that very specific public safety issue, since it is a problem in the city.
Yeah, absolutely. We can reach out to Athens and try to see the feasibility about having a representative come and kind of speak to that. Yeah.
Great. And then the other thing I'll say is that I did have the opportunity to meet with some staffers at Senator Schiff's office in DC, and just to talk about some things as a constituent that, especially in these times, matter to me. And you can do that. If you're in DC, you can just make an appointment and you can go in. So especially these days, I would encourage everyone to do that at every level of government. Locally, if you find yourself in the nation's capital, go in and speak and let them know what you're concerned about. I think it really matters. Thanks.
Commissioner Blau?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to take a moment to thank all the speakers who came out tonight and who joined us here. It's really great to see engagement and just to have the community sharing their experience and perspective. It is really helpful, and to help us understand again and keep in frame of mind the people impact with what we're doing here and what we're all trying to accomplish. And I also want to sincerely thank the public safety partners that we've got here tonight. LA County Fire, including our outgoing battalion chiefs, sheriff, block by block, and staff. A couple questions I have regarding the status of the public safety technology rollout program. What is the current timeline with kind of what we're going to see on next steps for that? I think I remembered hearing something about kind of Q2. Am I right on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And Anita, feel free to add anything as well. And so we're still working with the sheriff's station in terms of building out the real-time watch center. I'm happy to report that that's in its final phase, if you will. And so hopefully, within the next, I would say, 4 weeks, that should be completed. What is going to take a little bit longer is, of course, just getting the drone with first responder program up and running, but we're also looking at, hopefully within the next 8 weeks of having that as well up and running. And so we're getting closer. I know folks are going to be starting to get trained at the sheriff's station and getting that going. And then for the fixed cameras, the last component, I should say that is going to take a little bit longer. That's a little lengthier process in terms of getting the permits and things internally to get those installed. So that takes a little bit longer as well. And then we do have, as a part of the fixed cameras, we have a mobile trailer. I think Lieutenant Lapkin kind of mentioned that a little earlier. And that's going to be a trailer that has the fixed camera, but that can be placed around the community, right, a specific location. So that actually should be delivered in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And will be capable of being operated. And so the plan is, as we're getting maybe within the next 2 to 3 weeks of really kind of drilling down on some specific dates to do additional outreach in the community. That is the intent as we get closer. But I would say, looking at Pride, which is just around the corner, that's kind of the target goal of getting technology up and running by then.
Okay, thank you. I guess that was a very timely question I had. Good. Coming back to the purview of this commission, can you help me and maybe the community understand how frequently, or maybe if the city does a regular comprehensive review of all the different codes and local laws that we have in place? I think that modifications or items like that, obviously it's huge, so we couldn't go through it in here, but modifications, recommendations to city council to make that adjustment, I think could originate here, could come through here, but does that happen organically in the city normally, or is that something that we might want to consider, I don't know, assigning out for the commission's purview?
I at least again in my time here, it's been my experience that it happens more organically. But I do know that the city clerk's office, that's the division that takes the lead as it relates to that, to all commissions and all advisory boards. I know that the city council just had a discussion regarding making some proposed changes to some of the commission and some of the advisory boards. And last year there were changes, and even the year before. And so there's been more conversation that I have seen in the 6 years, probably in the last 3 years, more so as it relates to commissions and advisory boards. And there was even some new commissions that have never existed that became commissions, right? And task forces, like the Social Justice Task Force that became an advisory board. So those were all opportunities recently where there was a lot of robust discussion at the city council level at multiple meetings that occurred. And so the Public Safety Commission, as I mentioned, I would have to look at the bylaws, but there was a review and some changes that were made. And you all recall we just recently changed the Mondays that we were meeting from the first or the second Monday to the fourth Monday. So that just gave another opportunity for the city clerk's office, right, to kind of look at that. And that was something that we brought to the commission, got some input feedback. Prior to that, there were some additional changes to the bylaws as well that was made. And so again, there's been actually quite a bit of discussion as it relates to that. And I know the city clerk's office went through multiple commissions and made a number of changes to the bylaws. And I don't know if that was 2 years ago or maybe about a year ago. But I would have to look back at that, and we can send you those dates as well.
Yeah, certainly, and I should clarify as well. The intent of my question wasn't necessarily about a review of the bylaws per se, but more so about the city has just codes. For instance, indoor construction only on Saturdays, no construction at all on Sundays. These kinds of things where municipal codes, laws, not necessarily related to commissions and advisory boards. Does a review of that and the applicability or adjustment of that kind of happen by any city department on a regular basis at all that you know of?
No, and thanks for the clarification, because that expands it a lot more. So that is done organically. Okay. There's just way too many codes. The only chapter I will say traditionally throughout many jurisdictions is the zoning ordinance, is the planning commission. But even now, I mean, there's organic, a lot of directives, et cetera. But for the most part, from a code enforcement perspective, or sometimes when there's business initiatives, et cetera, there's things that change, right? And so that allows that opportunity to kind of look into those specific sections.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Post?
Thank you. Just a few other quick questions, and then I'll do my final commissioner comment. Just wanted to see, I know there's discussion in the broader LA County area, specifically with the fire department, about an after-action report that would possibly be done by the LA County Fire Department. I know we talked about an after-action report in here. Is there any update, or is there any plans to do specifically kind of a West Hollywood after-action report as a result of the fires, or kind of how we communicated out of that?
So yeah, absolutely. And that was something that got directed to staff from the city council. And so we're still working through that, having some internal conversations. And when I say internal, not just city departments, I'm talking about our partnering public safety agencies. And as you heard, Assistant Fire Chief Drew Smith mention, I mean, they went from what was occurring in January and, getting out of that, and he said, in his own words, right, not getting out of that yet because they're starting to train for spring, and so just trying to make things work, align. Part of that too is also reaching out to the city of Los Angeles. That is going to play a role in that and having a better understanding of their communication that was put out. And so getting their availability too has been a little challenging recently. So hopefully we get that all worked out and then we would be coming back with something.
But we can expect that timeline to kind of follow along what the county is doing as well.
I don't know what the county specifically, I mean, I can look into that, but they're being directed right from the Board of Supervisors in terms of that. So just with the Altadena, I know there's more regular updates and things going on there.
Thank you. And to Commissioner's Blaupoint, in terms of just updating documents, I know as a result of it, I talked with some folks of just like, oh, does West Hollywood have an emergency management or preparedness plan, which we do. I was just looking at it on the website. It is from 2017, so I didn't know if that is a document. I don't know how annual or what is the cadence at which we normally update a document like that.
So we are doing a review of that as a part of this. Our local hazard mitigation plan was just something that was updated, and that's done every 5 years. So we kind of more or less use that as kind of the triggering point, right, for us to kind of look at that. And there's a lot of similar information in terms of what has been identified in the community, and then basing, that information in terms of generating a response to that. And so a lot of the information will still stand, and so we're going to be looking through that and working through that.
Okay, awesome. Well, looking forward to that. Appreciate you calling out the June meeting that Human Services will be here as well. Like I said, I would super appreciate whether it's from your side or from Human Services or from our other agencies, just how, again, we communicate amongst all of our alternative responses and with Sheriff's Department, and even for the public's info, what are the best numbers to call in these so-and-so situations, I think could be really valuable for the Human Services Department to kind of provide as part of that presentation, but appreciate you calling that out. I will be here as a general member rather than a commissioner, but just really appreciate all of the work that all of our agencies, sheriff, fire, block by block, the city departments that you've all done for safety. While I've been on the commission, I know it was only about 8 to 9 months that I've been here, but I think it's been really great to get to know you all, work with you all. I know the city is committed to making sure that we are right-sizing our responses and making sure that whether it's homelessness or drug activity, that we're doing this in coordination with the folks that have the most expertise to respond to these situations. So I'm very optimistic about the outlook of safety and for some of these improvements that we've been talking about here in West Hollywood. The drone program and the technology program, very excited to see that roll out as well, and we'll continue to stay a part of that. But again, just appreciate all the work that you've all done while I've been here as a commissioner.
Vice Chair Harrison?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge and thank our outgoing commissioners, Commissioner Freiberg, Commissioner Post. It's been great serving with you, even if it's only been 8 months. I think that this commission is very respectful of one another, and I've appreciated that, and you've definitely been a big part of that, so thank you for your service. And we know we'll see you out in the audience, maybe with tougher questions. And that is all, and I appreciate all the service and the reports tonight, so thank you very much.
Thank you. I also would like to thank Commissioner Post and Commissioner Freiberg for their commitment and dedication to the Public Safety Commission. Thank you very much. And I feel that your input and dedication, you will see, I believe, the results down the road. So I want to thank you and Joy for that. I also want to thank the LA County and City Fire Department for all of their hard work. The last couple of weeks, months with all the fires, you really get to appreciate your first responders a lot more when they're just going around saving lives. And I thank them from the bottom of my heart for keeping us all safe. Also, I look forward to seeing everyone on Wednesday at the Public Safety Awards ceremony on March 26. It'll be a fun event. We'll get to acknowledge our block-by-block ambassadors, and acknowledge their hard work and dedication that they do for our city. That's all I have. Any other commissioner comments? All right. The Public Safety Commission will adjourn to the next regularly scheduled meeting on Monday, April 28th at 6 p.m. in West Hollywood Park Public Meeting Room, Council Chambers. Good night.
Which is a planner and also a support planner staff. And then here they'll have these like 5 to 6 people, small discussions to really talk through all these exercises that we have planned for them.
And so when staff collect that analysis, collect that community input, they develop a set of recommendations that are then presented at 2 different public hearings, one for the Planning Commission, opportunity for people to come